Listen, let's just dig right in. We had the State of the Union last night, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. My quick thoughts were, there was hit and misses. I liked, Russia and Ukraine and United. I think that was a strong part. A lot of misses, which I'll talk about. But it's a big topic today, and we'll see. Usually you can find lots of ideas. However, the war took center stage. Usually they talk about different investment areas, where they're going to go invest. And you could really, even leading up to this and even after this, even when it was alternative energy for the last 5-6 years, or how much money is going to certain sectors and defense and stuff, you could really see these stocks move based on the State of the Union, because you're talking about the government, unlimited spending. But we didn't see too much of that in terms of finding ideas for it. But there was significant things they mentioned, oil and things like that. So I don't know what your opinion was.
Yeah, overall, it was decent. I thought he seemed pretty straightforward. I think he got his point across from if you put on the two different hats here from the Republican side, really the only thing you're going to like if you're a Republican or more conservative is the whole Made in America theme. I thought he did a good job of selling that idea on whether it's Build Back Better or whatever he wants to pass. He did make a point to say, hey, from every step of the way, from beginning to end, they're going to do American products and things like that. That's good for GDP. That's good for the economy. I think somebody, I don't know if it was CNN or MSNBC, one of the headlines, one of the news sites I was checking, made a point to basically highlight that was the only time that everybody, or one of the very few times that both sides, you know how they go back and forth. Some people sit there and, protest, say, hey, I don't cheer for that. And then the other side does. That goes back and forth. Overall, I thought it was decent. I didn't watch the whole thing. Typically, I don't watch these under any president. I like to read them. I like to read the transcript better. But I did watch it up until when he gave the congratulations to the retiring Supreme Court Justice. I'm getting old, Frank. I just had a birthday. I needed to go to bed and get ready for today. I was thinking that maybe Bloom Energy, I had that on my list. Bloom Energy, we've talked about, is a greener play. They have a product that works. They have some of the biggest Microsofts, Apples, and things like that as customers that use their power source for cleaner energy. It's down a little bit today after a massive run up over the last week or two. Yeah, so overall, it was more about the worldwide. I didn't like the sense of the whole one world concept. I'm an individualist and a capitalist, and you can rising tide lifts all boats worldwide. But the whole unity of one world and all that makes me a little nervous. So that was my big takeaway. Much ado about nothing in the sense.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I think he was more energetic than I've ever seen him, which is cool because usually I'm used to him just being up there and making mistakes. He did make one mistake. It was if they're highlighting when he's supposed to say Ukrainians and he said Iranians or whatever, which is kind of funny. But again, it's a long speech and I get it. For me, I like the part with Russia. I think unity and stuff and everyone's on the same side. I do think that our media is portraying that the Ukraine is doing fine. I don't think they're doing fine at all. I think they're in a lot of trouble. I think that capital is going to be taken over very soon. If you're looking at pictures, I mean, listen, it's patriotic. They're fighting. I think the war is basically going to end when, it's either that city's going to be defended or Kyiv's going to be defended or taken over. And I think it will be taken over very shortly in a couple of days. I just think there's nothing that Ukraine could do about it. But outside of that, you know what? There's a couple things that really piss me off. First of all, we all make mistakes, and I think humble is such a great quality, not to the point where it presents weakness, but we're under this impression that you can never admit that you're wrong with things, right? So he's talking about how we're going to lower the deficit by $1 trillion. I'm like, okay, well, you spent, 18 trillion fiscal, right? Through COVID. You did. This is under your leadership, right? So this is in fiscal and monetary, through the Fed. And then, we're sitting there and he's saying how great the economy is right now with the stock market crashing, right? So we have the inflation near all-time highs. If you take the methods that they use in the 80s, we're at all-time highs. And it's not slowing up. We haven't seen any slow up, right? And energy prices are through the roof. Record crime rates across major cities. The biggest wealth gap in history. I mean, these are all facts, right? Record amount of illegal immigrants entering the country. I think China and Russia are kind of laughing at us. So I think we've shown weakness through a lot of this stuff. But, you have your positives and negatives with each president. But, just highlight, hey, you know what? This is what we need to do better. Because right now we're sitting in a market and just, more inflation than we've ever seen. And he's trying to tell us the economy is great, and I'm watching that party get up and clap every time he says that. I'm like, wow, you're really losing touch. People, if you look at Tyson, when Tyson bit off Van Holyfield's ear, right? I mean, even the Tyson's fans are like, oh my God, this is a disgrace. I can't believe this. if you look at Tyson now, it's hard not to love that guy. Talking about all the mistakes he made, how to better yourself, what's important to him. I mean, you see, there's a lot to be said of that, right? From learning from your mistakes. But if you're going to sit up there, and Trump did this a lot too, where you just go up there and tell everyone how great I am and how everything's great. It's not great. And it's really, really not good right now. It's not good for most Americans. So, for that speech, another thing I hate is the rebuttal. I mean, State of Union, bring everybody together. Not only that, AOC with the rebuttal. I mean, you see that? She's talking about,
I did not, but one thing that caught my attention was there was two. You always have the rebuttal from the other side. So in this case, you have a Republican since it's Democratic in office. And did I read there was two rebuttals? So three total, one from the Republican and then two from Democrats?
I saw AOC come out and really have like a thing about, talking how we need to focus more on renewables, right? I mean, again, she's 30-something, and I'm not saying that you can't be brilliant.
Hey, watch it.
I'm not saying you can't say brilliant at that age, but, the experience and the policy and what's going on right now where, yes, we all want to clean the planet, but we're talking about national security. We have the opportunity to be stronger than any. We could turn on the faucet. I mean, not even just be energy independent, which we were, and now we're kind of weaning off of that for renewables that are not there yet. We could still work on renewables, but we could turn on that faucet and start exporting energy to Europe. I mean, and then you're looking at Russia. I mean, Russia's just crazy right now, the whole situation, to be honest with you. Even with the State of Union and Russia going on, it's like, I mean, this would never happen, and I know it's a nuclear power and superpower, but there's no one in Russia right now. All their troops are in another country. I mean, you could probably take over Moscow in like 30 minutes, and imagine the country that really wanted to do that, or China, which they won't, but you're controlling, 30-40% of the world's energy by doing that. It's just, they're really going all in on Ukraine. Anyway, I mean, that's another story, and that's crazy thinking. But for me, when I'm looking at the State of the Union, it's a time to unite, even though it doesn't. But I just hate the rebuttal no matter who's president. It's like you have this whole thing and you're getting everyone excited and this is what we're going to do. And then you have someone saying that everything that guy say, he's totally full of shit, like right after that, right?
So who did the rebuttal on the right? Are you talking about AOC's or the other person?
I think it was a senator from Iowa.
Oh, okay.
I forgot her name. But it was a senator from I'm pretty sure it was oh man, it's Kim Reynolds. So Iowa governor. So, for me, look, I just be real with the people. I mean, now all of a sudden you're saying that you want to fund the police. I love the fact that there's no masks now, right? Convenient, right? Because everyone's really sick of them. Make sure you do it the day before. No science behind it, but the day before State of Union, no masks. You don't need them anymore, which is great, right? So good perception there. I
thought it was very, sorry to interrupt, but it is powerful to make that line about remember, you're going into the midterms, so you want to start saying things and implementing things now so that you see some results by the time you have.
Exactly.
So I thought it was very smart of him politically to say that about funding the police and things like that.
Yeah. Now
and that's good for overall economies as well. So you couple that with hopefully the safety nets that you get back to, plus the reopening and no mask. That's a very positive, and that will play out over the next couple months. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, overall, it kind of a non-event for me where, but I do think that leads us to oil, right? Which is, the released oil from the strategic reserve. Oil prices over 100. I thought it was a good time to, maybe take profits, but wait till you hear my interview tomorrow, guys, with Harris Kupperman. He was betting on oil for a while and saying it was going to go over 100 when it was in the 30s and 40s, and even when he was on our podcast in the 60s, he said it was an amazing opportunity. And he's humble. He says when he gets things wrong, this one he got really right, but he's saying that oil is going to go a lot higher, and you'll see that forecast tomorrow, which is insane. But what we're doing with Russia right now, we're making them 10 times stronger. The sanctions are driving up oil prices, and they're one of the largest producers in the world. They have the entire playbook. The same thing happened when you took over Georgia. Same thing happened when you took over Crimea. The same exact things. You place sanctions on them. They knew NATO was going to come after me. Can't do anything. So they had the playbook. At the last 5-6 years, they weaned themselves off of treasuries, got out of the dollar, lowered their euro stake. Now you're seeing gold go higher and Bitcoin go higher. I mean, Putin was very, very smart in, hey, this is eventually going to happen. This is what we need to do over the next few years. And, the timing was great, but I just feel like they're so ahead of us because everything that we're doing, and we're hurting them, and their economy's closed. Listen, the same thing happened with their currency. It went down 35% the last two times. the last two times when they took over Georgia, took over Crimea. So they know that's going to happen, right? So they close the stock market. It's going to be a great opportunity. It's going to be a chance for all that money that you have in oil to really invest in those companies. These guys are really smart the way they're doing this. We have to find a way to really hurt them by taking away that power in oil, which we haven't done. Otherwise, these sanctions, I won't say that they're meaningless, but what are they doing? They're causing massive price increases for every single person in the world. And the one person you're not hurting is the person you're supposed to be hurting is Russia, because they're one of the biggest producers and oil's going through the roof and they're sovereign wealth. It's just, for me, I don't get that part in terms of strategy. And I just feel like, Putin, there's a narrative now saying he's crazy, he's outrageous. He has no choice. He has to take over Ukraine right now. If it doesn't, it's going to seem the most weakness the Russia's ever been in history, if they're not able to do that. So he's all in. He's definitely going to do that right now. I mean, he has to do that. He's not crazy. He's very smart up to this point. We have to do something. It's either, we're doing everything we can to try to prevent this thing, except for basically putting troops on the ground. But, we have to do something. I don't know what that is. It's not SWIFT payment systems. It's not that. It's just the sanctions right now are not working. They're actually making Russia very strong.
Well, nothing's going to happen overnight in a situation like this. The sanctions and the SWIFT payments and the lack of communication, or cutting them off from communication, I should say, will definitely have a profound effect. What good is it, Frank, if, and we're paraphrasing a little bit here, but to your point, they are very rich in commodities. They're a very big producer in oil, one of the largest, one of the most influential. Yet, if oil goes to $150 a barrel, but yet nobody is a buyer of your oil, what good does that do to you and your economy? We're going to wait to see. Obviously, our administration's bet and the world powers are saying, hey, that's going to squeeze you out. It's going to cause strife and, for lack of a better word, just nervousness and non-commitment on the inside. You've already seen reports about logistic issues, food and logistic issues on the invasion and all that kind of stuff. Are they doing enough right now? I think the low-hanging fruit there is to say no. And it's funny because you always say, hey, let's look at the other side. So right now, the contrarian bet would be to bet against oil and or take profits. I'm still of the camp of, this is the fun thing about investing from a bigger picture. When you're right on an investment or a thesis, the hardest thing, and this isn't Daniel Creech saying this is much smarter people in books and all kinds of things, but the hardest thing, Frank, to do is to do nothing. Because you always want to do something. You want to capture. So, hey, if you were in oil for the last 6 months and you've been in any kind of energy company that's gone up, I'm not going to, and I don't think you're going to do the same. Nobody's going to begrudge you or get on you for taking some profits or taking some off the table. However, just because times are good and you can sell into strength doesn't mean it's time to get out of this and move into something else entirely. Forget Russia and the invasion for a moment, as negative and as easy as that sounds to say. There's still a lot of issues with supply and demand and bottlenecking and headwinds against oil and other sources of energy like that are going to continue to drive the price higher. You just have a huge short-term, i.e., if you will, boost with the Russian invasion. So all this is saying, we say all this to say, make sure you have exposure to energy companies. ExxonMobil was out today. Continental Resources was out today making announcements, Frank. This is a good segue because you love when companies make announcements like Ford.
Yeah.
But ExxonMobil and Continental Resources are investing in carbon capture. They're getting out in front in this. They're going to be the leader in the cleaner energy. And that is the type of banner you want to have. And that's why we have ExxonMobil and dollar stock.